free live stream to talk about the 10 commandments of dating. So just going to give a few minutes and let people join in. So if you're seeing this, we'd love it if you would drop a comment and just say hi. Obviously, it's me here, Dr. Chloe Carmichael. You're on my live stream. You could be seeing this on Facebook. You could be seeing this on YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn. We're live everywhere today. And when I say we, I mean myself and my wonderful assistant, Maura. Say hi, Maura.
Hi, everyone.
So Maura's helping out a lot here today. She's going to be helping out with the tech side, and she's also going to be taking all of your comments that you're going to be hopefully leaving, because I want this to feel a little bit more like a conversation where I'm going to be going through the 10 commandments of dating. But if you have any challenges or any questions or comments or anything at all, we do want this to feel like a dialogue. So by all means, chat your questions, chat your comments. And then Maura here is going to be responding and also, even jumping in and interrupting me if she feels like there's some stuff that we should just talk about, right? And just take a sidebar. Also, good news, in case you have not read Dr. Chloe's 10 Commandments of Dating, it is actually on a special right now for free on Amazon, which is awesome. We decided to make it free all the way through, I think, Valentine's Day, Maura. Is that right? Yes. Oh, right. Sorry, Maura. We actually can't hear you.
Sorry about that. Yes,
Oh.
It will be live through Valentine's Day, and I'm going to drop the Amazon link in the comments so y'all can click whenever you want.
Awesome. Yep. And then we also have a free Facebook group where we, talk about the 10 commandments of dating. And we also have a free book discussion coming up with one of the therapists in my office. So if Maura, if you're able to share any links where people can sign up for those more free stuff, that would be awesome. So, yeah, I see we've got a few more people starting to join in. And, I just want to say again that we're encouraging people to just jump in and share if they have ideas or questions or anything about the 10 Commandments of Dating. So without further ado, I'll just go ahead and start with Rule 1. So Rule 1, briefly done. One of the things that I found in my experience working with dating clients is that they tend to go on these marathon dates that last, for several hours and sometimes even longer. If it feels like a really good date, it's like they just don't want it to end and they feel like they're really bonding, and maybe they're afraid that if they don't take this one opportunity when things are really working to kind of cement the connection, maybe it'll just evaporate, I guess, and it will fizzle away. Or maybe they've just had a stressful week and it just feels so good to be out with somebody having a good time and they don't want it to end. So they just keep the first date going. So, hey, everybody, I see we've got some more people joining, which is awesome. Just saying again, I'm going to be going through these 10 commandments of dating. And if you have any questions or buts, like if you tried a rule and maybe it didn't quite work for you, or if you tried it and it did work, that's awesome. Share with us either way. We want it to feel like a conversation. So I was saying with Rule 1, briefly done, what we want to do is actually try to limit our first dates so that they're no more than maybe 60 to 90 minutes max. And the reason for that is because those of us who are dating for a partner are looking for somebody that also has the organizational skills and the kind of consistent, reliable personality skills that if they do go on a date and it is a lot of fun, they actually will, that will carry through for them, that the next day they'll organize themselves and want to see you again and do all of the things that we would, of course, expect would be happening after a good first date, but that surprisingly sometimes do not, right? So, and we've all had the experience before of even, being on a date and having a great time in the moment, but then for whatever reason later, just not really feeling like seeing the person again for whatever reason. So before you might find yourself on the receiving end of that disappointment, it's just so much easier if you end your first dates after 60 to 90 minutes. Not bad to leave yourself wanting more or even leave them wanting more. Leave a little bit of something to discover next time. So it makes me so happy. I see we've got some more people jumping in, and I just want to remind everyone that Maura here is watching all the comments. We're on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. We're going live simultaneously. So if you have comments or things that you want to share, go ahead and chat them, and Maura will relay them into me. And Maura has also shared some links where you can get the dating book for free for the next couple days, and we have a free dating discussion group. I really want to just engage with people about this material, and what better way to do it than free and live. So here we are. So rule number 2, numbers for you. And what rule number 2, numbers for you, is all about is having a little bit of consistency in the number of first dates that you're going on. I was working with a lot of clients that seem to kind of go on like a yo-yo diet of dating, where, maybe they would sign up for the apps and they would be going on like 6 or 8 first dates in a week. And then all of a sudden they would just feel like, oh my gosh, I've had enough of that. And then they just wouldn't date again for a month or two because they would feel so burnt out. So what I would suggest people do instead is just stick with a target number, like maybe 2 or 3 dates a week or whatever's right for you based on your dating goals. And then just always stick with that number so that you're never burning yourself out with a whole bunch of dates, but you're also making sure that it's on your radar and you're never, just forgetting about it because it's been a busy week or something like that. Similarly, you can also do numbers for you, rule 2, numbers for you, with the amount of time that you spend on the dating apps, because that's another thing that I know a lot of people have is, when they first sign up, like they'll spend hours on it, or maybe they're just kind of bored or lonely at one particular point, and so they're on the app all the time, and it almost starts to take on a negative feeling. And then as soon as they find something else going on in their life, they're like, oh, thank God I'm off that app. That was so much. And so instead of going in that yo-yo space again, where you're just almost overdoing it and binging on the dating app and then not wanting to be on it at all, is you just limit yourself. A popular amount of time is 15 minutes a day for many people. That's enough time to make sure that they're present, they're checking messages, they're returning stuff, but they're also not trying to like cure their need for social connection through the dating app, which can be tempting sometimes. But we have to remember that that's actually really not the best use of the dating app. So we want to make sure just about 15 minutes a day is usually a good number. So rule number 3, diversity. And, although I'm all for dating a diverse group of people or whatever's best for you, rule 3, diversity, is actually not about specifically dating a diverse group of people. It's actually about making sure that you're using a diverse group of sources to find your dates. So if you just have a particular type or demographic that's, that you're going for, that's fine. But I would like to see you using more than one source. I mean, assuming if you're not totally satisfied with your dating life. If you're totally satisfied, then probably you don't need to change a thing. But if you feel like, maybe you're not 100% satisfied with your dating life, you might want to try using a more diverse set of sources for your dates. And some people say, like, well, Chloe, I don't want to pay for like 2 or 3 different dating apps, or, and I kind of remind them, we're talking about finding your future life partner, right? Think of all the money that we spend on something like going to college or our graduate school. We spend so much money, right? Those of us who are still dealing with student loan bills, can certainly attest to that, right? And finding our life partner in many ways is like the most important legal contract you'll ever sign. And so to say that you don't want to, invest in spending, $15 a month or whatever, to add another dating app or two to your profile of options, I think is maybe doing yourself a disservice. Like if you were looking for a job, for example, would you just like post your resume and look for jobs on monster.com and then just be done with it? No, you would also look at LinkedIn, you would also look at Indeed, you would hit all the places because finding a job is important and you'd want to make sure you are really checking out all the options. Same thing I would say should go for you with your dating life. So I really wouldn't skimp too much or worry too much about adding in a couple of options. I also think of dating as a little bit of a supply and demand issue. Since you're the supply and there's only one of you, the more places we can get active that are going to be creating a demand for you. So that means a few additional dating apps, maybe, or other ways that you might want to find dates, whether that be, singles, clubs. I know with COVID and everything, that's a lot harder right now. So I think apps are really probably now more than ever the primary place where people are dating. But we just want to make sure that you're trying a few different types. I mean, people have such different experiences, maybe on Bumble versus Hinge versus Match versus eHarmony. There's so many different options out there. Also, a lot of them will have like I think Match for a while had a thing where if you did it for 6 months and you still weren't in a relationship, they would give you your next 6 months free or something like that. But I would really try to not let, what's really the nominal amount of money that dating apps charge to be a barrier between, you and being on at least 2 or 3 different apps. If you're not totally satisfied with your dating life and you might want some more. Speaking of more, rule number 4, search for more, is the idea that when you do meet someone really great, this might surprise you, but generally speaking, I would suggest that you go ahead and try to meet more people, right? Because there's almost a tendency that when we meet someone that we really like, we have a tendency to not want to go out with other people anymore because we're so excited about that one person. But the truth is, really, until you've gone out with somebody like at least 4 times, you don't really know them much at all, right? Like the first date, as I said, I've known so many people that have had really amazing first dates and then they like never talk to the person again or whatever. So the first date is almost like a pass. Like you really don't know the person after that first date. The second date, you're maybe getting to know each other a little bit from a psychology perspective. You're starting to establish at least a pattern and a frequency of contact that's at least more than one. And then once you get up into date 3 or 4, at least you can really feel like you know the person. But after the first date or two, I would really challenge the idea that you actually know the person well enough to think that, you want to just start closing off your interest in dating other people. I can understand not really wanting to go out with other people when you just have a big crush on somebody, but I would encourage you to just do it anyway. It keeps you balanced. It keeps you from getting over focused on that one person that you really barely even know yet. So, one way that we can keep our minds on track is by keeping our behaviors on track. A lot of times, the mind will actually follow what we're doing in behavior. So if you feel like your mind is getting really focused on somebody that you actually really just met, you might want to make sure that you do the behaviors of at least going out with a few other people as you're still waiting to get to know that person a little bit more. So, Maura, I'm curious, I want to encourage people again to go ahead and share. Like, are you guys trying this stuff? Is it working for you? What are some of the challenges?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm seeing some comments come in, and I just want to also encourage, I'm here, I'm looking. So when you're putting them in, they're not going into the void. I will relay them to Dr. Chloe, of course. I have Amanda on one of these platforms asking, kind of in the pandemic, it seems like she's saying it's hard to kind of you were saying using, not using dating apps to kind of fill the social connection. But when a lot of what we're doing is virtual, it seems like Amanda's struggling with getting into conversations on dating platforms that don't really go anywhere because there are so many things to consider when dating now with the pandemic and keeping safety and everything like that. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so a few thoughts about that. So one thing is I discourage people from having too much like messaging back and forth on those apps. It's like just like we can't really get to know people through text messages. We're not really there for a pen pal relationship. So I do think it's really good to, be friendly, be upbeat, be responsive, but don't feel a big burden to like keep the conversation going by like asking a bunch of questions and stuff like that. This is especially true for women that are interested in a relationship dynamic where the man is going to pursue them. I'm not trying to make any moral argument about whether that should or shouldn't be the way relationships work. But in my experience as a psychologist, having worked with I don't know, probably 1,000 women at least, the pattern I've seen is that many of them really want a man that's going to, come and pursue them. And so, especially if that's your situation, I would not want you to feel like it's going to be productive for you, to feel like you have to keep up a bunch of big banter and questions and things over text on a dating app. You can be friendly and upbeat, and you can even say things like, if your answers are short and he comments like, gee, your answers seem kind of short, you can just write back with a friendly comment like, I'm actually much more bubbly in person, or I'm much more talkative in person, like with a little smiley face. And hopefully that could kind of stimulate him to be like, oh yeah, that's like the point here, is like we're supposed to, be meeting in person. And then more to the point that Amanda had then about like, well, in COVID, we're trying to deal with safety. Like, how do we navigate with all of that? It's actually kind of like, in a weird way, a gift. And I will admit, I'm almost a militant optimist sometimes. So I can almost like force to try to find a silver lining in anything. But I really do think we kind of have one a little bit here, because prior to COVID, you really couldn't say to somebody, well, before I'm going to like put on a nice outfit, or, pay for dinner or whatever it is, I'd really like to do a 10-minute phone screen or video screen with you first, right? Like, that would have come across as so obnoxious. But now that we're in COVID, people actually think it's pretty normal. And although it's not the same, it's not as enjoyable as being on an actual date. The positive side is that you get to do a little bit of a screen first. You get to kind of see how the person actually looks and sounds, live on video. And then if that goes well, then it makes sense to go ahead and meet. And so that way you're certainly working on keeping yourself safe, because you're at least, meeting people and having a little bit of a screen first. But you're actually using your time a lot better too. I'm really into time management. And with rule number 2, numbers for you, suppose that you want to make sure that you're like contacting and having like 6 dates a week or something. I would say that those 10-minute little Zoom screens do count. And it would be so hard to do that many, if you were having to run all over town and meet all those people. But being able to just do it over Zoom is not a bad thing, especially if you kind of define it that way from the start. If you even just say like, hey, I'm not really into like trying to have a big video relationship, but in light of the pandemic, do you think it would make sense if we maybe just meet for 10 minutes first and say hi, and then we can go from there? Because that way, what you're also doing is you're kind of programming a time limit on that Zoom date. So you're just saying from the start, it's just going to be like a little 10-minute hello. And that way there's no pressure to feel like you're supposed to keep up a long, video conversation with anyone. So that was rule number 4, to search for more. And more, by all means, like, feel free to just jump in if more comments come in. But in the meantime, I'm just going to jump on then to rule 5, remember to strive. And before I say that though, about rule 5, remember to strive, I also want to say a little bit of a caveat, right? Which is that although the book is called Dr. Chloe's 10 Commandments of Dating, and it is free right now on Amazon. So if you want to go ahead and pick it up and leave me a great review, I'd really appreciate it. But although it's called Dr. Chloe's 10 Commandments of Dating, they're really just guidelines. I totally understand that every person is different. There's going to be, quote, rules that maybe don't actually really work for you. And we've all known people that broke all the rules, and then their dating life just worked out great and they met their spouse that way. So I certainly don't deny that. These collections of, rules or guidelines that I have here are just things that I've seen on the general trend line tend to help people to not get their hearts broken. That's really kind of why I wrote this book. It's Dr. Clay's 10 Commandments of Dating, how to stop getting hurt, put yourself out there and find a relationship that lasts. Because I saw so many just really heartfelt people that really wanted to be in a good relationship, and they were good quality people. And their problem was that they were assuming that everybody else out there was as good and sweet and true and reliable as they were. And they would feel that way after maybe going on a first date or two with somebody and having a really great connection with them, before they actually really took the trouble to put up some boundaries and some safeguards before they really opened up their heart. And so they were opening up their hearts too soon, and they were getting hurt. And the more they got hurt, the more jaded they got. They started getting anxiety about dating. And I would tell them, I don't blame you, because I think your anxiety about dating is because there's a part of you that's aware that you don't really have good boundaries yet. And you're just going to walk right out there into the dating world and have that, kind of same heartbreak situation happen again. So to solve the anxiety, we worked on boundaries, right? So that's what a lot of the book is actually about, is about boundaries.